Hello there, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Al24 News streaming live from the capital Algiers, and coming up next in our news program. At least 40 people have been found dead in an abandoned truck on the outskirts of San Antonio, Texas. The death toll from a Russian missile strike that hit a crowded shopping center in the central Ukrainian city of Kremenchuk has risen to at least 18 people, with 60 wounded. NATO is set to add tens of thousands of troops that could be summoned quickly to the eastern flank in case of a direct threat from Russia. The Algerian oil and gas group Sonatrach announced on Monday the discovery of a significant gas condensate deposit in Hassi-R'Mel field in the Algerian Sahara. Hello again and welcome. Those were today's top stories. A truck carrying migrants was discovered on Monday with 46 bodies in East Traila in San Antonio, Texas, where 3 suspects were arrested, according to authorities. The migrants were seeking refuge in the United States. Islam Seed has more to tell.
Another tragedy struck the United States. Around 46 people have been found dead inside a truck trailer, and 16 others were taken to hospitals as they were attempting to enter the U.S.
A worker who works in one of the buildings up here behind me heard a cry for help, came out to investigate, found a trailer with the doors partially open, opened them up to take a look, and found a number of deceased individuals inside.
The patients were hot to the touch and dehydrated, and no water was found in the truck rear. According to police, those in the trailer were part of a presumed migrant smuggling attempt into the U.S. 3 people were taken into custody, but it was unclear if they were connected with the human trafficking.
We hope that those responsible for putting these people in such humane conditions are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Such journey is extremely dangerous. The immigration services indicated that temperature in the trailer had climbed to 65 degrees Celsius.
The patients that we saw were hot to the touch. They were suffering from heat stroke, heat exhaustion, no signs of water in the vehicle. It was a refrigerated tractor trailer.
Around 60 firefighters have been mobilized to take charge of the remains and will receive psychological support due to the traumatic scene.
We're not supposed to open up a truck and see stacks of bodies in there. None of us come to work imagining that. So we're working through the behavioral health for our folks right now. 2 of the hospitalized were Guatemalans. However, the nationalities of the other victims were not identified so far. Going up, looking at the scene, there's a mix of males and females. South Texas has long been the busiest area for illegal border crossings. The incident comes years after similar tragedies occurred in the same area, where in 2003, 19 migrants were found dead in the sweltering truck southeast of San Antonio, and in 2017, all the 10 illegal migrants passed away in an overheated trailer.
An explosion of toxic yellow smoke in Jordan's port of Aqaba on Monday killed at least 13 people and sickened some 250. The Public Security Directorate, which initially described it as a gas leak, said authorities sealed off the area after evacuating the injured and sent specialists in to address the situation.
There is no gas concentration in the atmosphere. As you can see, we are at the site of the incident, and all checks have shown that the gas concentration is at a normal level.
To the Russia-Ukraine fight in the last of the war's deadly attacks, shelling on a shopping center in Kremenchuk on Tuesday has caused 18 fatalities. President Vladimir Zelensky warned of an unimaginable number of casualties, but said more than 1,000 shoppers had managed to escape the blast. Russia, on the other hand, says it has triggered the weapons depot and that explosion of the ammunition had triggered a fire in the nearby mall. Nabil Khazini.
These were the very first moments after this shopping mall in the Kremenchuk city in the center of Ukraine was a target of Russian missiles. Scenes of complete devastation and panic, where everyone on site tried to save those trapped inside the building. At least 18 people lost their lives and other 36 remain missing under the burnt rubbles.
Because what we see absolutely, and this is absolutely clear, that it is civilian object and they shelled civilian infrastructure again and again. It's a question about crimes against humanity. I think it's like systematical shelling civilian infrastructure.
In the wake of the deadly shopping mall bombing, President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine claimed that 1,000 civilians were inside the mall. He called Russia the world's largest terrorist organization.
Today's Russian strike on a shopping center in Kremenchuk is one of the most brazen terrorist acts in European history. A peaceful city, an ordinary shopping center. Inside, women, children, ordinary civilians. Before the announcement of the air alert, there were about 1,000 people inside. Fortunately, as far as we know at this time, many people managed to get out.
However, Moscow rejected those accounts, saying it had hit legitimate military targets in the city and that the shopping center was not in use, saying it had struck a weapons depot and a subsequent explosion of ammunition had triggered a fire in the nearby mall.
Russian aerospace forces used high-precision air-based weapons to strike hangars with weapons and ammunition received from the United States and European countries in the area around the Kremenchuk road maintenance machinery plants. As a result of this high-precision strike, Western-made weapons and ammunition concentrated in the storage area to be sent to Ukrainian troops in Donbass were hit.
The continued Western weapons deliveries to Ukraine were at the heart of Russian warnings, which for Moscow only heightened the threat of a further aggravation in the conflict with unpredictable consequences.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg announced that the alliance will increase its high readiness force troops level to over 300,000. The leaders at the NATO summit in the Spanish capital Madrid are expected to unveil a new strategic concept which will characterize Russia as the most significant and direct threat to the alliance security. Another central idea at the NATO summit will be the possibility for Finland and Sweden to join this alliance following Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
We will transform the NATO response force and increase the number of our high readiness forces to well over 300,000.
Seen in Europe, leaders of the G7 meeting in Germany advanced the economy's promises to increase their financial, military and humanitarian support to Ukraine for as long as it takes. The group stressed the country must be able to safeguard its sovereignty and choose its own future. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said at the summit that there would be no return to before Russia attack on Ukraine, which reshaped international relations.
And as the G7, we agree on the assessment that this concerns very long-term changes that will affect the international relations for a very, very long time. This is why it is clear the ties to Russia cannot return to what they were before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, because when the situation changes, we also need to change. Everyone very much knows this.
The Iranian Foreign Ministry said negotiations over the revival of the Iran nuclear deal will resume today in Qatar with mediation by the European Union. The agreement to return to the table announced over the weekend by Iran and the European Union came after a visit to Tehran by the EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell.
I confirm there has been an agreement in content and form, but it remains to be seen whether the US government can, according to the plan, stop following the Trump administration's policies practically and concretely and become the responsible party. Iran has pledged to participate in the talks and try to resolve the remaining issues of the previous negotiations in the shortest possible time.
Sri Lanka has announced that it is sending 2 government ministers to Russia to negotiate for fuel, one of the necessities nearly exhausted as a result of the Indian Ocean nation's economic collapse. The plan comes as Washington and its allies aim to cut off energy imports from Russia in line with sanctions over its war against Ukraine. Power and Energy Minister said that the 2 ministers will leave for Russia to continue talks that Sri Lanka has been having with Russian authorities to directly purchase fuel, among other related issues. The Algerian authorities placed the Trans-Saharan Road project among the regional economic priorities and are pushing for accelerating its implementations as soon as possible. To this end, consultations were active with the 5 participating countries, namely Tunisia, Niger, Mali, Chad, and Nigeria. Zara Farjani has more to tell.
The Algerian government announced the start of the last section completion of the African Unity Road. The ministers of the public works and equipment sector of the member states of the Trans-Saharan Road project have agreed on the need to speed up the process of creating an economic corridor.
The Trans-Saharan Road is one of the most important accomplishments that were achieved after 1962, which came within the framework of a project that represents an example of cooperation and coordination between African countries to achieve common goals that will bring much benefit to the region.
On Monday, the Algerian Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman received a delegation of ministers from Tunisia, Nigeria and Niger, visiting Algeria to participate in the 73rd session of the Trans-Saharan Highway Liaison Committee. The Secretary General of the CLRT, Hayadi Mohammed, affirmed that this agreement comes as a result of a study carried out by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development.
Our project, the Trans-Saharan Road project, is a success despite the duration of the realization. It carries all the hopes in the service of 6 member countries and in the service of our continent.
The Nigerian Minister of Public Works and Housing said that the Trans-Saharan Road will allow for a move towards an agreement for the economic management of the corridor between the 6 member states.
We have achieved virtually the complete construction of the highway linking the 6 roads, and today's meeting is essentially to agree on a framework for the economic management corridor involving these 6 countries.
Algeria considered this road a strategic axis at a distance of over 2,000 kilometers from the capital to the border with Niger in the far south of the country. Algerian authorities say that the country will be a crossroads for local and foreign investors, thanks to the incentives provided by the new investment law.
Algeria announced Monday the largest gas discovery in 20 years. Sonatrach, the national state-owned oil company of Algeria, declared a significant hydrocarbon potential in the latest carbonate LD2 reservoir in Hasirmol exploitation's perimeter. The preliminary assessments of the potential showed a volume that varies between 100 and 340 billion cubic meters of gas condensate. And to have a clear idea of this new discovery of Sonatrach, I'm joined live via Skype platform by Mr. Shuaib Boutman, a marketing business advisor in oil and gas industry. Mr. Shuaib, hello over there.
Hello, good afternoon.
Mr. Shuaib, directly to the point, what will this discovery represent for Algeria precisely and for the international gas market?
Yeah, good afternoon. This is a massive, really a massive find, has declared by Sonatrach yesterday, and it's a huge amount of gas. It's a range between 100 and 340 cubic meters per gas per year. This is a huge production, and really this discovery will really help the Algerian economy to go upper. So I think internationally we are living at the moment very high rising demand in oil and gas, especially in Europe. And as we know, there is an issue in Europe, inside Europe. So Europe needs energy, needs gas, and especially from Algeria. So you know that the energy, there is an energy shortage in the international market. So this find will help the Algerian markets, and also can really help Europe to boost its imports from Algeria via the pipeline. Let me mention that
Mr. Shuaib, could this new volume of gas discovered push the national economic will in other different sectors, or it will only be fruitful to the oil company? And could we expect new business offers from the European countries the coming year?
Yeah, for sure. You know that the domestic demand in gas is rising every year. Let me highlight that Algeria actually exporting 40 billion cubic meters of gas per year. This discovery will help Algeria to increase its capacity by 3.6 billion cubic meters per year. This is a huge and important capacity for the Algerian economy. For sure, the demand is rising every day, locally and the international market. So the Algerian market really will go upper with this because this pipe, the pipe is relying Hassermal to Algeria, to the north, the Algerian north. Really will take with it many. This discovery really help all the Algerian economy to go forward. Let me highlight that yesterday the WTI, the Western Texas Intermediate, rose to settle around $109. This in a very choppy session. So it's you see that how the demand, the oil and gas really market is really fluctuating at the moment. It's not stabilizing.
Thank you ever so much. Mr. Shuaib, thank you ever so much for this clarification. I really appreciate it. And now to continue our news, in a statement, the United Nations Committee on Migrant Workers on Tuesday deplored the incidents that led to the death of at least 23 migrants as they tried to cross the border from Morocco into the Spanish enclave of Melilla last Friday. It is yet to be determined whether the victims died falling from the fence or as a result of any actions taken by the border control officers. The independent experts urged the two states to carry out immediate and thorough investigation and to hold those responsible to account. The committee also asked Morocco, Spain, and the other EU states to expand the availability of pathways for safe and orderly migration and take measures to guarantee and respect the right to seek and receive asylum. The United Nations headquarters in Geneva will host a meeting between the speakers of the Libyan House of Representatives, Akila Saleh, and the President of the Supreme Court of State, Khalid al-Mashri, in an attempt to overcome the blockage in the constitutional track after the failure of the Joint Committee of two chambers recently to agree on all lines of the constitutional track constitution. Tensions are escalating in Sudan. General Abdel Fattah Burhan, head of Sudan's ruling self-determined council, has visited Al Fashaka region in the east of Sudan after the killings of 7 Sudanese soldiers and a civilian in the border area with Ethiopia. Al Burhan expressed his support to the region and promised a retaliation to its residents.
We will support you, and we will stand with you, make you able to prevent anyone from entering this point again. Your brothers who have gone, we are able to restore their right. We will make the enemy see that we are not easy. We will not make this issue miss like this. We do not talk much, and our response will be on the ground.
Zimbabwe's central bank on Monday more than doubled its key interest rate to a whopping 200%, the highest in the world, as the southern African country battles hyperinflation. The bank's governing committee announced in a statement the whopping interest rate increase after expressing great concern on the recent gallon in inflation. A Malawian court condemned a Catholic priest to 30 years in prison and several other people to life in prison on Monday for the horrific murder of the albino man in 2018. 12 individuals in a total received various sentences for the murder. Killing the two took place in the midst of a rampage that saw dozens of people with albinism assaulted and nearly 40 of them killed.
So for the offense of causing another person to harm a person with albinism, in this case extracting of human tissue, the court has sentenced the accused to 60 years. Then for the offense of transacting in human tissue, the court has sentenced the convicts to 30 years.
North Korea leader Kim Jongun surprised another meeting of the ruling party to tighten discipline as Pyongyang continues to fight the COVID-19 pandemic and with concerns over the crop output in a country already suffering from chronic food shortages due to the unusual heavy rains. Negotiations between indigenous leaders and the government delegation continue on Monday without reaching a final agreement in Ecuador. The talks started after President Guillermo Lasso agreed to cut off gasoline prices, one of the workers' main demands in the nationwide strike. Tornado hit in the south of the Netherlands on Monday, killed one person and injured at least 10 others, according to officials. Tornadoes are rare in the Netherlands, but more common in summer months. Also on Monday, a storm front crossed the country from south to north, dumping heavy rain on parts of the nation. And for the first time in Algerian sports history, Algeria wins gold medal and 2 silver medals of Greco-Roman wrestling during the second day of the Mediterranean Games 2022. This comes at the time when the Algerian national team of badminton succeeded to win the golden medal, as well as in men double competition against their strong opponents, Spain. And to have a more clear idea over the Mediterranean Games, I am joined live by our special envoy of Al24, Mr. Usama Iyadi. Usama, hello over there, and good afternoon.
Hello, Rahim.
This is
Thank
the
you
third
so
day
much,
of,
Rahim. Hello.
Usama, this is the third day of the Mediterranean Games. What is the latest that you can highlight for us?
As you have highlighted before, Algerian athletes here in Oran are giving their best, are doing their best. We have recorded 6 golden medals here in the Mediterranean Games, in addition to 4 silver medals, which is something very high. The Algerian athletes and Algerian delegation is giving its best, and it's placed in the first place in terms of medal recordings.
Usama, as a question, what pushed the Algerian athletes to achieve these successive victories in all kinds of sports? What is the motive that made them hungry for gold in this participation?
Well, that's right. Algerian athletes here in Oran are very motivated, highly motivated. They are very willing to give the best. They are very willing to record the most medals, or the biggest number of medals here in Oran. As you can see, most of Olympic complexes are full of audience, which gave them a second breath for the Algerian athletes. They are supported perfectly here in Oran.
Quite interesting. So what is the commands of other Arabic nations participating in around 2022 games that are supported by the Algerian fans?
we have seen the Algerian fans and supporters supporting the Egyptian and the Tunisian athletes yesterday. Yesterday we saw the Algerian supporters cheering for the Tunisian tennis player, as well as Egyptian Greek-Roman fighters and wrestlers, and that's something really perfect, and it gives the Mediterranean Games another taste and a better image of Algerian people and Algerian hospitality.
Thank you ever so much, Mr. Osama from Iran. Thank you ever so much. To this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.